Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. The wedding dress cost $3,000 that Ava Thompson didn't have. The cake cost $5,000. The venue decorations cost $8,000. But discovering that her fiancé was making out with her maid of honor in the bridal suite 15 minutes before the ceremony, that was absolutely priceless. Ava, I can explain. Chase attempted to step closer, still adjusting his disheveled tie, while Brooke, her best friend since third grade, cowered behind an arrangement of white peonies with her bridesmaid dress completely wrinkled. Explain. Ava's voice emerged like barely contained thunder. You want to explain why you had your lips all over my best friend's face on our wedding day? The venue was packed. 200 guests were waiting just beyond those elegant French doors, including Ava's parents, who had taken out a second mortgage to pay for half this wedding, and Nana Grace, 89 years old, who had flown in from Portland, just to see her granddaughter walk down the aisle. So please don't cause a scene. Chase ran his fingers through his styled hair. It was just a moment of panic. You know how anxious I get about big commitments. And Brooke was calming me down. Calming you down? Ava grabbed an ornate silver vase from the side table. I'll show you calm. That's when the bridal suite door opened and in walked a man Ava had never seen before in her life. Tall, with striking blue eyes and dark hair, wearing a custom suit that clearly cost more than her annual teacher's salary, he paused in the doorway and quickly assessed the chaos. Bride brandishing decorative weaponry, groom perspiring profusely, maid of honor sobbing behind expensive florals. Apologies for the interruption, he said with a smooth baritone that made Ava freeze mid-swing. But there are 200 people out there wondering if there's going to be a wedding ceremony or if they should head straight to the cocktail hour. Ava blinked rapidly. Who on earth are you? Someone who happened to be in the area and noticed you have a significant problem. He gestured toward Chase. Let me venture a guess. Unfaithful groom caught at the worst possible moment. How could you possibly? It's more common than you might imagine. The mysterious stranger leaned casually against the doorframe. So, what's your strategy? Cancel everything and disappoint your guests? Or, Ava lowered the vase, intrigued despite her rage. A confident smile spread across his face. Or you marry me instead. The silence that followed was punctuated only by Chase's strangled coughing fit. Are you out of your mind? Ava exclaimed. Actually, you obviously can't marry him. He waved dismissively at Chase. But everything's already arranged. Your guests traveled here. Your grandmother flew across the country. It would be such a waste, don't you think? You are absolutely insane. I prefer solution-oriented. He straightened his platinum cufflinks. I'm Grayson, by the way. Grayson Sterling, Ava Thompson. But that's completely irrelevant because I am not marrying a total stranger. Why not? How did marrying someone familiar work out for you? He glanced meaningfully at Chase, who had turned crimson. At least with me, every day would be an adventure. Despite her fury, Ava felt an unexpected laugh bubbling up. You're actually serious about this? Completely serious. Listen, I'll explain everything later, but I happen to need a wife as well. Need a wife? What kind of person needs a wife? The kind whose grandfather will cut him out of the family fortune if he doesn't marry before turning 30. Grayson shrugged elegantly. And today happens to be my 30th birthday. Ava stared at him incredulously. That sounds like something from a romance novel. My entire existence reads like a romance novel. He extended his hand with practiced charm. So, what do you say? Temporary marriage of convenience, until we both resolve our respective dilemmas. You're all completely crazy, Chase burst out. Ava whirled on her ex-fiancé, and I knew everything about you. I believed I did, but apparently you're a dishonest, cheating snake who seduces bridesmaids in wedding venues. I can absolutely guarantee I won't seduce your bridesmaid, Grayson said with complete sincerity. First, because we've never met. Second, because excessive crying is incredibly unappealing to me. Excuse me? Brooke protested indignantly. My apologies, but it's factual. Grayson appeared utterly unrepentant. Ava looked from Grayson to Chase, then toward the doors concealing 200 expectant guests. If I somehow agree to this madness, she said carefully, what exactly do you gain? A temporary spouse to satisfy my grandfather's antiquated demands, a wedding celebration that's already been paid for, and the opportunity to rescue a clearly remarkable woman who deserves infinitely better than that worthless excuse for a man. Ava felt warmth flood her cheeks. How could you possibly know I'm remarkable? Any woman who can brandish expensive decor with such grace while wearing couture is undeniably remarkable. Is that supposed to be flirtation? Is it effective? Ava glanced once more at Chase, who remained speechless. Then at Brooke, who had stopped crying and was now observing them with horrified fascination. "You know what?" Ava tossed the vase to Grayson, who caught it effortlessly with athletic reflexes. "Fine. Let's get married." "Ava," Chase shouted, "you cannot be serious. More serious than you were when you vowed to cherish me forever, and then immediately started kissing my best friend." Ava adjusted her veil with renewed determination. "Grayson, you're absolutely certain about this, more certain than I've been about anything in years. Then let's proceed. Before I reconsider." Grayson offered his arm gallantly. "My lady, one quick question." Ava hesitated before accepting his arm. "You're not a criminal, are you? Involved in anything illegal?" "Nothing illegal. Fleeing from law enforcement?" "Technically speaking, no." "Technically? It's complicated. I'll explain during our honeymoon." Ava studied his face for a long moment, then linked her arm through his. "Fine. Let's create some chaos." And that's how Ava Thompson prepared to walk down the aisle with a complete stranger, while her ex-fiancé and former best friend watched in stunned disbelief. Beyond the doors, the string quartet began the wedding processional. "Prepared?" Grayson asked. "Not remotely." Ava smiled genuinely for the first time all day. "Let's make this memorable." The doors swept open, and 200 guests turned to witness the bride accompanied by a man who was definitely not Chase. The collective gasp that rippled through the venue was audible 3 blocks away. Nana Grace, seated in the front row, nudged her neighbor and announced loudly enough for the entire assembly to hear, "Now that's what I call an upgrade." And thus commenced the most scandalous wedding in Manhattan society history. The wedding reception was in full swing, and Grayson Sterling, heir to Sterling Enterprises, a technology empire worth $2 billion, was officially married to a woman who thought his biggest concern was an inheritance-obsessed grandfather. If only she knew the truth. "So," Ava said, cutting into their wedding cake while trying to process how her life had completely transformed in the span of 3 hours. "Tell me about this grandfather of yours. Is he really that controlling?" Grayson nearly choked on his champagne. Something along those lines. What Ava didn't know was that there was no controlling grandfather. Grayson's grandfather had passed away 6 years ago, leaving him the sole heir to one of America's largest tech conglomerates. What she also didn't know was that Grayson had been searching for her for 4 months. It had started with a coffee shop collision in Soho. Ava had been rushing to her teaching job, crashed straight into him, spilled iced coffee all over his $1,500 suit, and spent 10 minutes apologizing profusely while attempting to clean it with napkins. When he tried to get her number, she'd already vanished into the morning crowd, leaving behind only the memory of sparkling green eyes and the subtle scent of vanilla perfume. Grayson Sterling, who could acquire anything money could buy, couldn't purchase that moment back. He'd hired 2 different private investigation firms to locate the coffee shop teacher with vanilla perfume, who apologizes excessively. It had taken them 3 months to track down Ava Thompson, elementary school teacher, 28 years old, engaged to Chase Harlan, financial advisor and apparently serial cheater. The original plan had been to approach her naturally, perhaps accidentally encounter her at the same coffee shop. The plan definitely hadn't included marrying her at her own wedding after her fiancé was discovered cheating. But Grayson had built a business empire by capitalizing on unexpected opportunities. "Your family seems wonderful," he said, watching Ava's parents dance to a classic jazz standard. Her father, a construction foreman with weathered hands and a genuine smile, had shaken Grayson's hand with surprising strength and said, "Anyone who can make my Ava light up like that is family to me." Her mother, a nurse who'd clearly spent months planning every detail of this wedding, had hugged him tightly and whispered, "Thank you for saving our girl's special day." They believed he was the hero of this story. "They really are wonderful," Ava agreed, then paused thoughtfully. "They're also completely broke because of this wedding. Dad took out a second mortgage to pay for half of this, and Mom worked double shifts for months to afford my dress." She gestured around the elegant ballroom crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere, a live jazz band. "I should feel guilty about all this expense, but honestly, seeing Chase's face when we walked out married was worth every penny." Speaking of Chase, Grayson nodded toward the corner where Ava's ex-fiancé was having what appeared to be a heated argument with Brooke, both of them seemingly forgotten by the wedding guests who were too busy celebrating the unexpected bride and groom. "He doesn't appear to be handling this development well." "Good." Ava's smile was brilliantly vindictive. "Maybe now he'll understand what it feels like to have your entire world flipped upside down by someone else's selfish choices." Grayson studied her profile as she watched the dance floor. Even in the midst of complete chaos, even married to a stranger, Ava radiated a warmth that drew people toward her like moths to flame. Her students at the elementary school probably adored her. Frankly, he was already halfway to adoring her himself, and he'd known her for exactly 5 hours. So, what's your story? Ava turned back to him with genuine curiosity. Besides the grandfather situation, what do you do for work? This was the critical moment. He could tell her the truth that he owned tech companies, real estate developments, investment firms, that his penthouse overlooked Central Park, that the simple wedding gift he'd quietly arranged paying off her parents' mortgage, though they'd never know it came from him, was pocket change. Or he could continue pretending to be just an ordinary guy who happened to need a wife. I work in technology, he said, which was technically accurate. Business development mostly. That's wonderfully vague. Ava raised an eyebrow with amusement. Are you being mysterious intentionally? Would you prefer me to be boring and predictable? After today, boring actually sounds rather appealing. Grayson laughed genuinely. Fair point. What about you? Besides teaching, what makes Ava Thompson tick? Ava Sterling now, apparently, she said, and Grayson felt something warm expand in his chest, hearing his name connected to hers. And I honestly don't know. I enjoy simple pleasures, I suppose. Good books, Sunday morning coffee, my students' terrible yokes. I always wanted to travel, but... She gestured around the expensive venue. Teacher's salary doesn't exactly cover European adventures. Where would you go if money wasn't a consideration? Ava's eyes absolutely lit up. Italy, Rome, Florence, Venice. I studied art history in college before switching to education, and I've always dreamed of seeing the Renaissance masterpieces in person. She laughed self-consciously. Silly, right? Not silly at all. Grayson made a mental note to call his travel coordinator first thing tomorrow morning. Dance with me? He asked, standing and offering his hand with a slight bow. I should warn you, I'm terrible at dancing. Fortunate that I'm excellent at leading. As they moved onto the dance floor, the band transitioned to a slow song, The Way You Look Tonight, performed with romantic flair. Grayson pulled Ava close enough to breathe in that vanilla perfume that had haunted him for months. This is completely surreal, she murmured against his chest. This morning, I woke up thinking I was going to marry Chase. Now I'm dancing at my wedding reception with a man whose favorite color I don't even know. Navy blue, he said automatically. Like the ocean at sunset in the Hamptons. You've been to the Hamptons? Darn. That was definitely a wealthy person reference. A few times for work, he added quickly. Technology business development must pay significantly better than teaching, Ava said with dry humor. Before Grayson could respond, a commotion near the entrance caught their attention. A woman in an expensive black designer dress was arguing with venue security, gesturing dramatically and clearly demanding admittance. Oh no, Grayson muttered, recognizing the voice before he saw the face. What? Who is that? My sister, Grayson said, which was true. What he didn't mention was that Madeline Sterling was also the chief operating officer of Sterling Enterprises, and probably here to drag him back to the board meeting he'd walked out of that morning. She looks furious, Ava observed as Madeline spotted them and began marching across the dance floor like a woman with a mission. She's perpetually furious. It's her default setting. Madeline reached them just as the song ended, her perfectly styled blonde hair unmoved despite her obvious agitation. Grayson, she said in crisp, businesslike tones, we need to talk immediately. Mads, I'm at my wedding, Grayson replied, hoping Ava wouldn't notice the tension. You're what? Madeline's professionally applied makeup couldn't hide her shock. Her eyes moved to Ava, taking in the wedding dress, the ring, the way Grayson's hand rested protectively on Ava's waist. Madeline, this is Ava, my wife. The word felt both foreign and perfectly right. Ava, this is my sister Madeline. Ava extended her hand with a warm, genuine smile. It's wonderful to meet you. I'm sorry you missed the ceremony. Everything happened very last minute. Madeline shook Ava's hand automatically, her analytical mind clearly trying to process this unexpected development. Last minute, she repeated slowly. How spontaneous. Mads, Grayson warned, we really do need to discuss family business. Madeline continued, her smile not reaching her calculating eyes. You'll understand, I'm sure. Ava looked between the siblings, clearly sensing the underlying tension. Of course, I should go check on my parents anyway. They're probably wondering where their new son-in-law disappeared to. As Ava walked away, Madeline grabbed Grayson's arm with surprising strength. Have you completely lost your mind? She hissed quietly. You walked out of the Whitaker merger meeting to get married to some random woman? She's not some random woman, Grayson replied firmly. Oh my goodness. Madeline's eyes widened with realization. This is about that coffee shop girl, isn't it? The one you had the investigators searching for. Grayson's silence provided all the confirmation she needed. You married her without telling her who you actually are. This is my choice, Grayson interrupted. And my life. Your life affects the entire company. The Whitaker deal. The Whitaker deal can wait. For how long? Until your honeymoon ends? Until she discovers she married a billionaire and decides she hit the lottery. Ava isn't like that. You've known her for 5 hours. Sometimes that's all it takes. Madeline stared at him like he'd completely lost his sanity, which, honestly, maybe he had. What's your strategy here, Grayson? Pretend to be an ordinary guy forever? She's going to discover the truth eventually. What happens when she realizes you've been lying to her? That was the question that had been nagging at him since they'd signed the marriage certificate. But looking across the reception at Ava, who was now dancing with her father, both of them laughing at something he'd said, Grayson knew he'd rather have whatever time he could get than let her slip away again. I'll figure something out, he said. You'll figure something out. Madeline repeated flatly. That's your business strategy? It's my marriage strategy. This is going to end disastrously. Maybe, he admitted, but maybe it won't. Madeline looked at Ava, who was now being spun around by an elderly gentleman Grayson assumed was her grandfather. She seems genuinely nice, she admitted grudgingly. She is. And you honestly think you can maintain this charade indefinitely? Grayson watched Ava throw back her head and laugh at something her dance partner said, and felt that warm feeling in his chest expand. For her? I'll try everything. Famous last words, Madeline muttered. But she was almost smiling. Well, if you're doing this, you might as well do it properly. How long are you planning this marriage to last? I don't know. We said temporary. But you're hoping for permanent? Yeah. Madeline sighed deeply. You always were too romantic for your own good. Mother always said it would get you into trouble someday. What do you think she'd say about Ava? She'd say you have excellent taste and terrible timing. Madeline squeezed his arm affectionately. Be careful, little brother. When she discovers the truth, then she will make sure she hears it from you. I will. And Grayson, the Whitaker meeting is rescheduled for Monday morning. Don't miss it. As Madeline walked away, Grayson felt someone approach from behind. He turned to find Ava slightly breathless from dancing, her cheeks flushed, eyes bright with happiness. Everything all right? She asked with concern. Your sister seemed rather intense. Family drama. Nothing I can't handle. Grayson took her hands gently. Having fun? More fun than I expected to have at my own wedding. Ava admitted with a laugh. Your sister seems formidable. That's one way to describe her. Is she older or younger? Older by 3 years, and she never lets me forget it. Ava laughed musically. I always wanted a sibling. Being an only child gets lonely sometimes. Well, now you have Madeline. Fair warning, she's going to want to interrogate you about absolutely everything. What should I tell her? The truth. That you're amazing. That I'm incredibly lucky. And that she should mind her own business. Ava blushed prettily. You don't actually know if I'm amazing. We literally just met. Sometimes you just know. The words hung between them, heavier with meaning than Grayson had intended. Ava looked up at him, and for a moment all pretense fell away. No fake marriage. No hidden identity. Just a man and a woman who'd found each other in complete chaos. Grayson, Ava said softly. Yeah? Thank you for today. For all of this. I know this is absolutely insane, and I know we're probably both going to regret it, but thank you for saving me from the worst day of my life. Thank you for giving me the best day of mine. And as he said it, Grayson realized it was completely true. Standing in a wedding venue he'd secretly paid for, married to a woman who didn't know his real wealth, surrounded by her family who'd accepted him without question. This was the happiest he'd been in years. Now he just had to figure out how to keep it without destroying everything with his lies. Ava woke up in a hotel room that was definitely not within a teacher's budget. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the sparkling waters of Martha's Vineyard, Egyptian cotton sheets that probably cost more than her monthly rent, and room service breakfast that included fresh orchids as table decoration. The simple seaside hotel Grayson had booked for their wedding night looked suspiciously like the presidential suite she'd once seen featured in Architectural Digest. Grayson. She sat up, noticing his side of the king-sized bed was already perfectly made. They'd agreed to share a room because married couples do that. But separate beds because they were essentially strangers who'd entered a marriage of convenience. Grayson, where are you? On the terrace, his voice called from outside. Come see this view. Ava wrapped herself in the hotel robe silk, naturally, and stepped onto the private terrace. Grayson was leaning against the marble railing, already dressed in designer jeans and a crisp white dress shirt that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe, talking on his phone in rapid-fire business terminology, mixed with what sounded distinctly like Mandarin. Tell the Shanghai office we'll finalize the acquisition by Friday. Yes, I understand the timeline is aggressive, but, he noticed Ava, and quickly switched to more casual English. I have to go handle it, Madeline. He ended the call and smiled at her, but Ava caught something guarded and anxious in his expression. Work call? She asked curiously. Yeah, sorry. Early morning conference call. Different time zones. You know how it is. Ava didn't know how it was because she'd never worked with international time zones. But she nodded anyway. Busy schedule for someone in business development. Technology consulting is demanding. Grayson moved closer to her, clearly trying to redirect the conversation. Sleep well? Like royalty. This suite is absolutely incredible, by the way. How did you manage to secure it on such short notice? Lucky timing, Grayson said quickly. And it's off-season. Ava looked around the opulent terrace, with its panoramic ocean view and private infinity pool. This is off-season pricing? I have connections in the hospitality industry. Before Ava could ask more probing questions, Grayson's phone buzzed with a text message. He glanced at it and his expression tightened almost imperceptibly. Everything all right? Yeah, just... He showed her the screen. The message was from someone named Lucas. Sir, the helicopter is fueled and ready for departure whenever you're prepared to leave. Helicopter? Ava asked, confused. Transportation. I thought we could explore the island today, and I figured aerial sightseeing would be more efficient than driving. You chartered a helicopter for sightseeing. Grayson looked distinctly uncomfortable. It's part of a package deal with the hotel. Ava was beginning to notice that Grayson had an abundance of convenient explanations that didn't quite add up logically. The luxury hotel suite, the private helicopter, the international business calls, the way the hotel staff had practically genuflected when he checked in yesterday. Either Grayson was the most successful technology consultant in human history, or there was something significant he wasn't telling her. Okay, she said finally, deciding to let it slide for now. Give me 30 minutes to get ready. Take all the time you need. We're on honeymoon schedule now. As Ava went back inside to shower, she missed the second text that appeared on Grayson's phone, this one from Madeline. The business press is asking questions about your sudden marriage. How long do you honestly think you can keep this quiet? The package deal helicopter turned out to be a state-of-the-art private aircraft with leather seats and a pilot who addressed Grayson as Mr. Sterling with the deference typically reserved for heads of state. The aerial tour of Martha's Vineyard was breathtaking, but Ava found herself studying Grayson more than the scenery. Tell me about your family, she said, as they flew over pristine beaches and historic lighthouses. Besides Madeline, are your parents still alive? Grayson's hands tightened almost imperceptibly on his knees. My mother died when I was 16, ovarian cancer. He paused. My father. He's not really involved in our lives. I'm so sorry, Ava said gently. That must have been devastating. Madeline essentially raised me after that. She's only 3 years older, but she's always been the responsible one. Grayson smiled, but there was deep sadness beneath it. What about you? Your parents seem absolutely wonderful. They really are. Dad owns a small construction company, and Mom works at the local hospital. They've been married 34 years, and they still hold hands when they take their evening walks. Ava gazed out at the ocean below them. They sacrificed so much for me to attend college. I was supposed to be their success story. You are their success story. You're an educator. You shape young minds and inspire futures. That matters infinitely more than money. Easy to say when you're not watching your parents work themselves to exhaustion to pay for your wedding, Ava said, then immediately felt guilty. Sorry. That sounded bitter. No, you're absolutely right. I don't know what that kind of struggle feels like. Something in his tone made Ava look at him more carefully. What was your childhood like? Grayson was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the horizon. Complicated, he said finally. Lots of expectations. Enormous pressure to become someone I wasn't sure I wanted to be. Is that why you rebelled against the whole marriage by 30 ultimatum? Something like that. They'd landed at a secluded beach, and Lucas was explaining their options for the afternoon. Ava let Grayson handle the logistics while she tried to piece together the puzzle of her new husband. He spoke multiple languages fluently. He was comfortable with extreme luxury, but claimed to understand financial hardship. He had business calls spanning multiple continents, but remained vague about his actual work. He'd appeared at her wedding like a guardian angel, but clearly had his own complex agenda. And despite all those contradictions, when he smiled at her, really smiled, not the careful, guarded expression he wore when discussing his work. Ava felt something flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with confusion and everything to do with genuine attraction, which was problematic, considering this marriage was supposed to be temporary. At the exclusive beachside restaurant where they had lunch, Grayson's phone rang again. "I apologize," he said to Ava. "I really need to take this." He walked several steps away, but Ava could still hear fragments of the conversation, more business terminology, more very large numbers, and what sounded like critical decision-making. Mergers should be finalized by board meeting Thursday morning. Tell the investors the acquisition parameters. Ava's business vocabulary was limited, but she caught enough to understand that Grayson wasn't just handling consulting calls. He was making major corporate decisions, the kind that involved investors and mergers and boards of directors. "Sorry about that," Grayson said, rejoining her. "Crisis at work." What kind of crisis requires investor calls on a Sunday afternoon? Grayson hesitated just long enough for Ava to know he was carefully selecting his words. International markets operate around the clock. It was clearly a deflection, and they both knew it. "Grayson," Ava said carefully, "what exactly do you consult on?" "Corporate strategy, market expansion, technology integration for companies of various sizes." "That's not really an answer." Grayson looked at her for a long moment, then out at the ocean stretching endlessly toward the horizon. "Ava, can we just enjoy this today? This moment, being here together. Can we not worry about work complications or what happens next? Can we just be a couple on their honeymoon in one of the most beautiful places on earth?" Ava wanted to press further. Every instinct she possessed was telling her that Grayson was concealing something significant, but she also saw something vulnerable in his expression, something that reminded her that whatever his secrets were, he'd rescued her from the absolute worst day of her life. "All right," she said finally, "just for today." The relief on Grayson's face was so obvious that Ava almost regretted agreeing. What exactly was he so afraid of telling her? They spent the afternoon acting like normal tourists. They strolled through charming Edgartown, browsed art galleries in Oak Bluffs, and shared ice cream while watching the sunset from a historic lighthouse. Grayson was charming and attentive, making Ava laugh with stories about his travels, which seemed remarkably extensive for a consultant, and asking thoughtful questions about her students and her teaching philosophy. By evening, Ava had almost forgotten her suspicions. Almost. They were having dinner at an upscale waterfront restaurant when Ava's phone buzzed with a call from her best friend since college, Sophie. "I need to take this," Ava told Grayson. "Sophie is probably dying to know what happened after, you know." She answered the call as she stepped onto the restaurant's deck. "Ava Marie Thompson. What in the world happened?" Sophie's voice was loud enough to be heard across the harbor. "Sterling," Ava corrected automatically. "Ava Sterling now." "Right. Because you married a complete stranger. Are you out of your mind? Are you safe? Do I need to call the FBI? "I'm fine, Soph. I'm in Martha's Vineyard, actually. Martha's Vineyard on your honeymoon, with the mystery man who appeared at your wedding like some kind of romance novel hero." Ava glanced back at the restaurant where Grayson was waiting patiently at their table, scrolling through his phone with a slight frown. "It's complicated." "Complicated? How?" "Ava, I've been doing research. Nobody knows anything about this Grayson Sterling. Chase is telling everyone you've lost your mind and married a complete stranger. Chase can choke on his own opinions. Fair point. But seriously, what do you actually know about this guy? Where does he work? Where does he live? Does he have money? Because, sweetie, you're staying at the Ocean House." Ava's blood turned to ice water. "How do you know that?" "Because Brooke posted about it on social media. She's been stalking your wedding guests online, don't ask me why. And someone posted a picture from your hotel. Ava, do you know how much it costs to stay there?" "Tell me," she said weakly. $3,000 per night for a standard room. The presidential suite, which is what it looks like you're in, based on the background of that photo, $8,000 per night. Ava's knees nearly buckled. "That's impossible. Plus, someone saw you getting into a private helicopter this morning." "Ava, who is this guy?" Ava looked through the restaurant windows at Grayson, who was now on another phone call, gesturing emphatically as he spoke. Even from a distance, she could see the authority in his posture, the way he commanded attention. "I don't know," she whispered. "What do you mean you don't know? You married him. I mean, I don't actually know. He says he works in technology consulting. But..." Ava thought about the helicopter, the suite, the way hotel staff treated him. The international business calls. "Soph, I think he might be lying to me. About everything." There was a pause. "Honey, what are you going to do?" I'm going to find out the truth. Be careful, Ava. If he's lying about who he is, there might be a reason. After ending the call, Ava stood on the deck for several minutes, trying to process everything. When she finally returned to their table, Grayson looked up from his phone with a smile that seemed forced. Everything all right? Just Sophie checking in. Ava sat down and studied his face carefully. Grayson, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Grayson's expression became guarded. Of course. Who are you really? What do you mean? I mean, who are you really? Because technology consultants don't typically stay in $8,000 a night hotel suites or charter private helicopters for sightseeing. Grayson was very still for a moment. Ava, are you wealthy? Define wealthy. That's not an answer. It's complicated. Stop saying that. Ava's voice rose slightly, causing nearby diners to glance their way. Stop deflecting and just tell me the truth. Are you rich? Grayson looked down at his hands, then back up at her. Yes. How rich? Very rich. How very rich? Grayson sighed deeply. Billionaire rich. Ava stared at him. Billionaire. Yes. With a B. Yes. And you didn't think to mention this? I was going to tell you. When? After our fake marriage became real? After I fell for your lies? Ava's voice was shaking now. What else have you lied about? I haven't lied about anything important. You lied about everything. Your job, your grandfather, probably your entire life story. Ava stood up abruptly. I cannot believe this. I escaped one liar, only to marry an even bigger one. Ava, please let me explain. Explain what? How you've been playing games with me. How you think my life is some kind of entertainment. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Grayson? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been having fun with the poor little teacher who doesn't know any better. That's not true, Grayson said quietly, also standing. You want to know the truth? The whole truth? I think I deserve at least that much. Grayson looked around the restaurant, then back at her. I've been looking for you for 4 months. What? 4 months ago, you spilled coffee on me in Soho. You apologized for 10 minutes and then disappeared. I've been searching for you ever since. Ava blinked rapidly. The coffee shop incident. That was you? That was me. You hired investigators to find me. I hired the best investigators money could buy. And when you found me, you discovered I was engaged to a cheating bastard, and I planned to approach you carefully. Maybe court you properly. I never planned to marry you at your own wedding. But you did. But I did, he agreed, because when I saw you there holding that vase, ready to fight for yourself, I couldn't let you settle for less than you deserve. Ava sank back into her chair, overwhelmed. This is insane. Completely insane, Grayson agreed, sitting down across from her. You're a billionaire. Unfortunately, yes. And you married me. Best decision I've ever made. We're complete strangers. Are we, though? Grayson leaned forward. Because I feel like I've known you forever. Ava looked at him, really looked at him. The careful walls he'd maintained were down now, and she could see something raw and honest in his expression. What happens now? She asked quietly. That depends, Grayson said. Can you forgive me for not telling you immediately? I don't know. Can you trust me when I say that everything I've felt, everything between us, has been completely real? Ava studied his face for a long moment. I don't know that either. What do you know? I know that I should probably run away from you as fast as possible. But I also know that despite everything, I've never felt more alive than I have in the past 2 days. Grayson reached across the table and took her hand gently. So what do we do? Ava looked down at their joined hands, then back up at his face. We figure it out, but no more lies about anything. No more lies, Grayson agreed. And you explain everything. Your business, your family, your life, everything. And Ava, yeah? If you ever lie to me again, billionaire or not, I will destroy you. Grayson smiled, and for the first time since she'd known him, it was completely genuine. I wouldn't expect anything less. As they sat there holding hands across the table, both of them knew that everything had changed. The fake marriage was becoming something real, something complicated, something that neither of them knew how to navigate, but they were going to try. The private jet that carried them back to Manhattan was nothing like the commercial flights Ava had taken her entire life. Cream leather seats that reclined into beds, a full kitchen staffed by a personal chef, and Wi-Fi that actually worked at 30,000 feet. As she sipped champagne that probably cost more than her monthly grocery budget, Ava tried to reconcile this reality with the man sitting across from her, typing furiously on his laptop. Grayson Sterling, Billionaire. Her husband. It still felt like something out of a fever dream. So, she said, setting down her crystal flute, tell me about your empire. Grayson looked up from his screen where she could see what appeared to be financial reports with very large numbers. Sterling Enterprises. We started in software development, then expanded into tech acquisitions, real estate, and venture capital investments. Madeline and I run it, though she handles most of the day-to-day operations now. I focus more on new ventures and strategic partnerships. And this empire is worth, as of this morning's market close, about $3.2 billion. Ava nearly choked on her champagne. Billion. With a B. With a very large B. And you were just going to not mention this. Grayson closed his laptop and leaned forward. Ava, you have to understand. When you're this wealthy, people treat you differently. They see dollar signs instead of a person. They want things from you, or they're intimidated by you, or they assume you're some kind of spoiled rich boy who's never worked for anything. Aren't you a spoiled rich boy? Grayson's laugh was bitter. My father abandoned us when I was 12. Left Mom with massive debts and a failing company. Madeline was 15. I was 12. And we were about to lose everything. Mom worked herself to death, literally trying to keep us afloat. Ava's expression softened. Grayson, when she died, Madeline and I inherited a company that was 3 months from bankruptcy. We could have sold it, taken what little money was left, and lived normal lives. Instead, we decided to fight. Madeline handled the business side while I taught myself everything I could about technology and innovation. We worked 18-hour days for years, sleeping in the office, eating ramen noodles, and slowly building it back up. That's incredible. It's also why I don't tell people immediately, because the moment they know, everything changes. They stop seeing Grayson and start seeing Grayson Sterling, CEO. Ava was quiet for a moment, processing this. Is that what you thought I would do? No, Grayson said immediately. That's why I wanted to tell you properly, in my own time, because I could see that you're different. You care about your students more than your salary. You sacrifice your dreams for your family. You married a stranger rather than disappoint your wedding guests. You're not motivated by money or status, but you still lied to me. I withheld information. There's a difference. Is there, though? Ava challenged. Because from where I'm sitting, it feels like you made a decision about what I could and couldn't handle without even asking me. Grayson was quiet for a long moment. You're right. I should have told you immediately. Yes, you should have. Can you forgive me? Ava looked out the window at the clouds below them. I'm working on it. The pilot's voice came over the intercom, announcing their descent into New York. As the city skyline came into view, Ava felt a knot of anxiety form in her stomach. Martha's Vineyard had been like a beautiful bubble, separate from reality. But now they were returning to the real world, where she was a public school teacher married to one of the wealthiest men in America. Grayson, she said slowly, what exactly does this mean for us? For our marriage, what do you want it to mean? That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give you. This marriage started as a convenience for both of us, but somewhere over the past 3 days it became something else. At least for me. Ava's heart skipped. Something else? How? You really want me to say it? I really want you to say it. Grayson reached across the aisle and took her hand. I'm falling for you, Ava. Hard and fast and completely against all logic. I know it's crazy. I know we barely know each other, but I can't help it. Grayson, you don't have to say anything back. I just needed you to know that whatever this is between us, it's real for me. The money, the business, the complications, none of that matters as much as this. Ava looked down at their joined hands, then back up at his face. It's real for me too. The smile that spread across Grayson's face was brilliant. Yeah? Yeah. Which terrifies me, by the way. Good, terrified, or bad terrified. I haven't decided yet. The car that picked them up at the airport was a sleek black sedan with tinted windows, and a driver who addressed Grayson as Mr. Sterling, with the same deference she'd noticed at the hotel. As they drove through Manhattan traffic, Ava watched the city pass by and tried to imagine what her life was going to look like now. Where are we going? She asked. My place. I thought you might want to see where you'll be living. I'll be living with you? Grayson glanced at her with surprise. We're married, Ava. Where else would you live? I don't know. I hadn't really thought about the practical aspects. Do you want to maintain separate residences? Ava considered this. No, I don't think so. It's just, this is all happening very fast. We can take it as slow as you need. Can we, though? Because I'm getting the feeling that your life doesn't really allow for slow. As if to prove her point, Grayson's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and sighed. I have to take this. It's the board chair. Of course it is. Grayson answered the call. Jonathan? I know. The Whitaker meeting. Yes, I'll be there tomorrow morning. No, The merger timeline hasn't changed. Ava half listened to the conversation while watching the city change around them. They'd left Midtown and were now in an area of Manhattan. She rarely visited tree-lined streets with historic brownstones and discreet luxury that whispered money rather than shouting it. Tell the legal team to have the contracts ready by Thursday. Yes. I understand the media interest. No comment until after the announcement. The car pulled up in front of an elegant townhouse that looked like something from a movie, 5 stories of limestone and glass with perfectly manicured landscaping, and a doorman who stepped forward the moment their car appeared. Home sweet home, Grayson said, ending his call. This is your house. One of them. I also have places in the Hamptons, California, and a small apartment in London. Ava stared at the townhouse. Grayson, this is a mansion. It's a townhouse. It's a mansion that happens to be shaped like a townhouse. Grayson laughed. Come on. Let me show you around. The interior was even more impressive than the exterior's soaring ceilings, original hardwood floors, modern art that Ava suspected was worth more than most people's houses, and floor-to-ceiling windows that flooded the space with natural light. It was elegant and sophisticated, but somehow still felt warm and lived in. This is beautiful, Ava said, running her hand along a marble countertop in the gourmet kitchen. Thank you. I had it renovated about 2 years ago. By yourself? With the help of a very expensive interior designer and a team of contractors who worked around the clock for 6 months, Ava wandered through the living room, admiring the carefully curated mix of modern and antique furniture. It doesn't feel like a bachelor pad. What does it feel like? Like a home. Like someone who has good taste and actually cares about creating a beautiful space. I'm glad you like it. I was worried it might be too much. It is too much, Ava said honestly, but it's also gorgeous. Grayson led her upstairs, showing her the master suite with its king-sized bed and marble bathroom, the guest rooms, his home office with its wall of monitors, and enough technology to run a small country. And this, he said, opening a door at the end of the hall, I thought might interest you. Ava stepped inside and gasped. It was a library, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with what looked like first editions, comfortable reading chairs positioned near tall windows, and in the center of the room, an antique desk that belonged in a museum. Grayson, this is incredible. I remembered you saying you love books. I thought maybe you could use this as your own space for reading or lesson planning or whatever you need. Ava turned to look at him, touched by the thoughtfulness. You're trying very hard to make me comfortable here. Is it working? Maybe a little. Before Grayson could respond, his phone rang again. He looked at the screen, and his expression tightened. Madeline, I should probably take it. Ava nodded. I'll explore a bit more. As Grayson answered the call, Ava wandered back downstairs, still trying to process the magnitude of the life she'd somehow stepped into. She was examining a painting that looked suspiciously like an original Monet when she heard Grayson's voice from the kitchen, his tone sharp with frustration. I don't care what the press is saying. No, we're not issuing a statement. Madeline, I'm not going to hide my wife like she's some kind of embarrassment. Wife. The word still sent a thrill through her. It's none of their business. No, absolutely not. I don't care if the stock price fluctuates. This is my personal life. Ava moved closer, concerned by the tension in his voice. What do you mean questions about her background? What kind of questions? There was a long pause, and when Grayson spoke again, his voice was deadly quiet. Find out who's digging and shut it down. I don't care what it costs. Another pause. No, Ava doesn't know yet, and I'd like to keep it that way until I figure out how to handle this. Ava's blood ran cold. What didn't she know? What was there to handle? She quickly moved back to the living room, pretending to examine the artwork when Grayson emerged from the kitchen a few minutes later. Everything all right? She asked, trying to keep her voice casual. Just business complications. Nothing I can't handle. There it was again, that careful, guarded tone that meant he was hiding something. Grayson, if there's something I should know. There isn't, he said quickly. It's just typical corporate drama. Boring stuff. Ava didn't believe him, but she also wasn't sure she was ready for whatever truth he was protecting her from. Okay. Are you hungry? I could have Lucas pick up dinner from that Italian place you mentioned liking. Lucas? My assistant. Well, one of them. How many assistants do you have? Several. There's Lucas for personal matters, Jennifer for scheduling, David for travel arrangements, and Patricia for household management. You have a household manager. Someone has to coordinate with the cleaning service, the landscaping crew, the security team. Security team. Grayson paused, realizing he'd said too much. Basic security. It's standard for anyone in my position. What kind of security? Just security, Ava. It's not a big deal. but it felt like a big deal to Ava. Security teams and household managers and multiple assistants. This wasn't just wealth. This was a completely different way of living. A way of living that required protection and management and careful coordination. Grayson, what exactly am I walking into here? What do you mean? I mean, what's my life going to be like now? Am I going to have security following me around? Will there be photographers trying to take my picture? Are people going to be digging into my background like Madeline mentioned? Grayson's expression went carefully blank. You heard that? I heard enough. What kind of questions are people asking about me? Ava, don't protect me or manage me or decide what I can handle. Just tell me the truth. Grayson sighed deeply and sat down on the sofa, gesturing for her to join him. When someone like me gets married suddenly, especially to someone the public doesn't know, it creates interest. What kind of interest? Media interest. The business press wants to know who you are, how we met, whether this affects my business decisions. The gossip magazines want photos and personal details and anything that will sell copies, and they're investigating me. Some of them are trying to... Yes. Ava felt nauseated. What will they find? Nothing scandalous, if that's what you're worried about. You're an elementary school teacher with a clean record and a good reputation. But they'll probably dig up details about your family, your finances, your relationship with Chase. Chase? What does Chase have to do with anything? He's been talking to reporters. Ava's nausea turned to fury. What? He's been selling interviews about your unstable behavior and sudden marriage to a stranger. Nothing too damaging, but enough to create a narrative that you're impulsive and possibly after my money, that lying, cheating, Madeline is handling it. We'll issue a statement that clarifies the situation and makes it clear that any harassment of you or your family will result in legal action. Legal action. I have very good lawyers, Ava. No one's going to hurt you. Ava looked at him, really looked at him. Is this what your life is always like? Managing narratives and issuing statements and threatening legal action? Sometimes, and now it's what my life is like too. Only if you want it to be. What does that mean? Grayson stood up and moved closer to her. It means we can make this work, however you want to make it work. If you want to keep teaching, we'll make that happen. If you want privacy, we'll ensure you have it. If you want to be involved in the business, there's a place for you. Or if you want to pursue your art history dreams, we can make that happen too. Just like that. Just like that. With money. With money, yes. But also with commitment and partnership and whatever it takes to make you happy. Ava was quiet for a long moment, processing everything. This is a lot, Grayson. I know. I need time to think. How much time? I don't know. Maybe I should stay somewhere else for a few days. Just until I figure out how I feel about all of this. The pain that flashed across Grayson's face was quickly hidden. But Ava caught it. Of course, whatever you need. It's not that I don't want to be here, she said quickly. It's just that everything is happening so fast. And I need some space to process. I understand. Do you? No, Grayson admitted. But I respect it. Ava felt a rush of affection for his honesty. Can I ask you something? Anything. If I decide this is too much, the money, the attention, the complications, what happens then? Grayson was quiet for a long moment. Then I guess we get divorced and you go back to your life. And you go back to yours. Yes. Would you be okay with that? Grayson looked at her with an expression of profound sadness. But I'd do it if it's what you needed. The simple honesty of his answer broke something open in Ava's chest. Grayson, I meant what I said on the plane. I'm falling for you. But I won't trap you in a life you don't want just because I have feelings. What if I'm falling for you too? But I'm terrified of what that means. Then we figure it out together, even if I need time and space and probably a lot of patience. Especially then. Ava moved closer to him, drawn by something she couldn't quite name. You're making this very hard to walk away from. Good, Grayson said, reaching up to touch her face gently, because I really don't want you to walk away. I'm not walking away, Ava said, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. I'm just taking a breath. Okay, but Grayson, yeah? When I come back, and I am coming back, no more secrets, no more protecting me from things you think I can't handle. We're partners in this, or we're nothing. Partners, Grayson agreed, leaning down to kiss her forehead. I can live with that. The hotel room Ava checked into that night was modest by Grayson's standards, but still far nicer than anywhere she'd ever stayed on her own dime. As she sat on the bed in her pajamas, scrolling through news articles about her sudden marriage to tech mogul Grayson Sterling, she tried to make sense of her new reality. The photos from their wedding had somehow made it to the gossip blogs, There was speculation about her mysterious background and whirlwind romance with one of America's most eligible bachelors. Some articles suggested she was a gold digger. Others painted her as a modern-day Cinderella. All of them felt like they were talking about someone else. Her phone rang, and she was surprised to see it was Madeline. "Hello? Ava, it's Madeline. I hope you don't mind me calling directly. How did you get my number? I have excellent resources." A pause. "Listen. I know my brother can be overwhelming and I know this situation is complicated. But I wanted to talk to you about something." "What?" "Grayson has been different since he met you. Happier, more human, I suppose. Madeline, I've watched him build an empire, make brilliant business decisions, handle enormous pressure with incredible grace. But I've never seen him smile the way he smiled at your wedding reception." Ava felt her chest tighten. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that despite the circumstances, despite the complications, I think you're exactly what he needs, and I think he might be exactly what you need too." "How could you possibly know what I need?" "Because I've done my research, Ava. You're a teacher who gave up her dreams to help her family. You're loyal to a fault, intelligent, and brave enough to marry a stranger rather than settle for a cheater. You're also probably the first woman Grayson has met who isn't interested in his money." "I'm interested in his money," Ava said honestly. "I'd be lying if I said the financial security wasn't appealing, but it's not why I married him." "Why did you marry him?" Ava was quiet for a moment. "Because when he smiled at me, I felt like I could be anyone, like I was worth saving." "And how do you feel now?" "Terrified, excited, overwhelmed, like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff and I can either jump or step back, but I can't stay where I am." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to jump," Ava said, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. "Good," Madeline said, and Ava could hear the smile in her voice. "He's worth it. Trust me." "How can you be so sure?" "Because despite everything, the money, the business, the complications, when Grayson looks at you, he looks like he's finally found something worth more than his empire." After Madeline hung up, Ava sat in the quiet hotel room for a long time, thinking about empires and partnerships, and the difference between being saved and saving yourself. Finally, she picked up her phone and typed a text to Grayson. "I'm ready to come home, but we're doing this my way." His response came back immediately. "Any way you want. Always." Ava returned to Grayson's townhouse the next morning to find him pacing in the kitchen, still wearing yesterday's clothes, his hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it all night. The moment he saw her, relief flooded his face so completely that Ava felt her heart skip a beat. "You came back," he said, his voice rough with exhaustion, and something that sounded like wonder. "I said I would. People say a lot of things." Ava set down her overnight bag and studied his face. "Have you slept at all?" "Not really. I kept thinking you might change your mind. About coming back. About all of it." Ava moved closer to him, noting the vulnerability in his expression, the way he was holding himself like he was braced for impact. "Grayson, I need you to understand something. I'm here because I want to be here. Not because of your money, not because I feel trapped, but because despite everything, the lies, the complications, the media circus, I can't stop thinking about you." "Ava, I'm not finished." She held up a hand. "I'm here because when you look at me, I feel like I'm the most important person in the world, because you saved me from the worst day of my life and somehow turned it into something beautiful, because you're kind and intelligent and ridiculously thoughtful, and yes, because the chemistry between us is absolutely electric." Grayson's smile was slow and devastating. "Electric? Don't let it go to your head." Too late. Before Ava could respond, Grayson's phone rang. He glanced at it, and his expression immediately shifted to business mode. "I have to take this. It's the Whitaker deal. Grayson." She paused, finger hovering over the answer button. "We're building something real here. That means I come first. Not all the time, but when it matters, and right now, when I'm standing in your kitchen telling you I want to make this marriage work, it matters." Grayson stared at her for a moment, then declined the call and set his phone face down on the counter. "You're absolutely right," he said. "Whitaker can wait." "Good answer. Does this mean I get to kiss my wife now?" "I think that can be arranged." When Grayson kissed her, it was different from their wedding day kiss or the careful, testing kisses they'd shared in Martha's Vineyard. This was a kiss that meant something, a kiss that felt like a promise and a question and an answer all at once. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. "Wow," Ava said. "Yeah. Wow. So, what happens now?" "Now we figure out how to be married to each other. Any ideas?" Grayson grinned. "A few." The first challenge came exactly 3 hours later when Ava arrived at Lincoln Elementary School to find a cluster of reporters and photographers waiting outside the main entrance. "Mrs. Sterling! Mrs. Sterling!" they called as she approached. "Can you comment on your marriage to Grayson Sterling? How long have you known him? Were you aware of his wealth when you married him?" Ava stopped walking, overwhelmed by the cameras and shouting voices. She'd known this was coming. Grayson had warned her, but the reality of it was much more intense than she'd expected. "I have no comment," she managed, then hurried toward the school entrance. "Mrs. Sterling, is it true you only knew your husband for a few hours before marrying him? Mrs. Sterling, what do you say to allegations that this is a publicity stunt?" The school security guard, Mr. Patterson, appeared at her elbow and helped escort her inside, but Ava could still hear the reporters calling questions through the glass doors. "You okay, Mrs. Thompson?" he asked, then caught himself. "Sorry, Mrs. Sterling. I'm fine, Mr. Patterson. Just adjusting." Her principal, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, was waiting in the main hallway with a concerned expression. "Ava, I need to speak with you." "My office?" As they walked through the familiar hallways, Ava noticed students and teachers stealing glances at her, whispering to each other. The news of her marriage had clearly spread through the school like wildfire. "Close the door, Doctor," Rodriguez said once they reached her office. Ava sat down in the chair across from the principal's desk, the same chair she'd sat in during her job interview 3 years ago. It felt like a lifetime ago now. "I'm going to be direct, Doctor," Rodriguez said. "The school board is concerned about the media attention. We've had 17 phone calls this morning from reporters wanting comments about you, and there are photographers outside the building. I'm sorry about that. I never intended. I know you didn't. But Ava, this is a public elementary school. We can't have this kind of circus disrupting our students' education." Ava felt her stomach drop. "Are you firing me? I don't want to. You're an excellent teacher, and the kids love you. But the board is meeting tonight to discuss the situation, and I wanted to give you a heads up. What can I do? Honestly, I don't know. This is unprecedented." Ava left the meeting feeling sick. Teaching was more than just her job. It was her identity, her purpose, her connection to the world outside of Grayson's rarefied existence. The thought of losing it because of media attention made her want to scream. Her phone buzzed with a text from Grayson. "How's your first day back? Everything okay?" She typed back, "Can we talk?" "There's a problem." His response was immediate. "On my way." Grayson arrived at the school 20 minutes later, looking like he'd dropped everything to get there, which Ava realized he probably had. The reporters immediately swarmed him as he got out of his car, but he moved through them with practiced ease, offering no comments and maintaining a polite but distant expression. "Mr. Sterling, Mr. Sterling, can you tell us about your whirlwind romance? Is your wife pregnant? Is that why you married so quickly? What does this marriage mean for Sterling Enterprises?" Grayson ignored all of them and walked straight into the school where Mr. Patterson was waiting to escort him to Dr. Rodriguez's office. Ava was already there, looking pale and stressed. The moment Grayson saw her expression, his jaw tightened. "What happened?" he asked, sitting down beside her. Rodriguez explained the situation, while Grayson listened with growing anger. By the time she finished, his expression was thunderous. "Let me see if I understand this correctly," he said, his voice dangerously quiet. "You're considering firing my wife because reporters are interested in her personal life. Mr. Sterling, I understand your frustration, but do you? Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you're punishing Ava for something that's completely outside her control. The disruption to our students will end the moment the reporters realize there's no story here. Ava is a teacher. She goes to work. She teaches children. She goes home. That's not exactly front-page news. With respect, Mr. Sterling, your marriage is front-page news. Our marriage is our private business. Not when cameras are outside our school." Grayson was quiet for a moment, and Ava could practically see him thinking through options. When he spoke again, his tone was measured but firm. "Rodriguez, what would it take for you to feel comfortable with Ava continuing to teach here?" "I'm not sure that's possible." "Everything is possible. What would it take?" Rodriguez looked between Ava and Grayson, clearly weighing her options. "The media attention would need to stop completely." "Rodriguez, I don't think you understand the extent of my resources. By tomorrow morning, there will be no reporters outside your school. By the end of the week, this story will be old news. Ava will continue teaching. Your students will be undisturbed. And everyone wins." "How can you guarantee that?" Grayson's smile was sharp. "Because I have something much more interesting to offer them than my wife's teaching schedule." After they left Dr. Rodriguez's office, Ava followed Grayson to his car, where they sat in the parking lot, while the remaining reporters snapped photos through the tinted windows. "What did you mean back there?" she asked. "About having something more interesting to offer them?" "Sterling Enterprises is about to announce a major acquisition, something that will actually affect stock prices and employment numbers and all the things business reporters actually care about. I'll give them exclusive access to that story, in exchange for leaving you alone." "You do that for me? Ava, I do a lot more than that for you." She stared at him, overwhelmed by the casual way he wielded his power and influence. "This is what I meant about your world being different from mine. You can just make problems disappear." "Some problems. Not all of them. But this one?" "Yes." Ava was quiet for a moment, processing. "What if I don't want you to fix this for me?" Grayson looked surprised. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if I want to handle this myself? What if I don't want to be the wife who needs her powerful husband to solve her problems?" "Ava, this isn't about your capability. This is about using available resources to solve a problem efficiently. For you, maybe. For me, it's about maintaining my independence and self-respect." Grayson turned in his seat to face her fully. "Okay, how do you want to handle it?" "I don't know yet, but I want to try my way first before we bring out the big guns. And if your way doesn't work, then we'll talk about Plan B." Grayson nodded slowly. "Fair enough. But Ava..." "Yeah? Your independence is one of the things I love most about you. But partnership means you don't have to handle everything alone anymore. There's a difference between being rescued and being supported. I'm still figuring out that difference. We both are." That evening, they had dinner at a small Italian restaurant in Ava's old neighborhood. It was the kind of place where the tables were too close together, and the wine came in glasses that didn't match. Nothing like the five-star establishments Grayson was probably used to, but he seemed genuinely relaxed, charming the elderly waitress and asking thoughtful questions about Ava's students. "Tell me about your favorite kid," he said over pasta that was good but not extraordinary. "I'm not supposed to have favorites, but you do." Ava smiled. "There's this little girl, Lily. She's 7, and she's been through more trauma than most adults. Her mom is a single parent working 3 jobs, and Lily basically raises herself and her little brother, but she comes to school every day with this incredible determination to learn everything she can." Sounds like someone else I know. "She reminds me that education can be transformative, that sometimes school is the one stable, safe place a kid has." "Is that why you became a teacher? To be that stable place?" "Partly. And because I love watching kids discover they're capable of more than they thought. There's this moment when a concept clicks, and their whole face lights up, and you can see them realizing they're smart and capable and worthy." Grayson reached across the table and took her hand. "You're incredible, you know, for doing my job, for choosing a job that matters, for caring about kids who aren't even yours, for sacrificing your own dreams to make sure other people can pursue theirs." Ava felt tears prick her eyes. "Grayson, I mean it. You talk about Lily like she's a hero for surviving and thriving despite her circumstances. But you've done the same thing. You've taken every obstacle life threw at you and turned it into motivation to help other people. That's what people do. They survive and they help each other." "No, Ava, that's what good people do. That's what you do." They were interrupted by a young woman approaching their table with obvious nervousness. "Excuse me," she said, addressing Ava. "I'm sorry to bother you, but aren't you Mrs. Sterling? I saw the story online." Ava tensed, expecting more questions about her marriage or her husband's money. But the woman surprised her. "I just wanted to say thank you. You taught my daughter Emma 2 years ago, and you changed her life. She was struggling so much with reading, and you stayed after school with her every day for months until she caught up. She's in 4th grade now and reading above grade level." Ava's face lit up. "Emma Martinez, how is she?" "She's wonderful. She wants to be a teacher now, just like you. She says you taught her that being smart isn't about being perfect. It's about never giving up." After the woman left, Grayson was looking at Ava with an expression she couldn't quite read. "What?" she asked. "Nothing. I'm starting to understand why keeping you in that classroom is so important. It's important to me. It's important. Period. You're changing lives, Ava. That matters more than stock prices or merger deals or any of the things that fill my days. Your work matters too. Does it though? I make money. I build companies. I create jobs. Which is good, but it's not the same as what you do. Grayson, you employ thousands of people. You provide technology that makes people's lives better. You donate millions to charity every year. How do you know about the donations?" Ava blushed. "I may have done some research. You investigated me. I Googled you. There's a difference." Grayson laughed. "What else did you find out?" that you graduated summa cum laude from MIT at age 20, that you've been on the Forbes 30 under 30 list twice, that you once bought a children's hospital, a new cancer wing anonymously. How did you find out about the hospital? That was supposed to be anonymous. Charity Navigator has very detailed records. Remind me to make my donations more anonymous in the future. Why? You should be proud of your philanthropy. I don't do it for recognition. I know. That's what makes it admirable. They were walking back to Grayson's car when Ava's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and groaned. My mother. I've been avoiding her calls because I don't know how to explain any of this. Maybe it's time to stop avoiding. Ava looked at him, then answered the call. Hi, Mom. Ava Marie Thompson. Her mother's voice was loud enough for Grayson to hear. What in the Sam Hill is going on? I've had reporters calling the house all day asking about your mysterious marriage and your billionaire husband. Are you in some kind of witness protection program? Mom, I can explain. Can you? Because I would love an explanation for how my daughter went from engaged to chaste to married to some man I've never met all in the span of one day. It's complicated. Complicated? How? Did you hit your head? Are you being blackmailed? Should I call the FBI? Grayson gestured for the phone. Ava hesitated, then handed it over. Mrs. Thompson, this is Grayson Sterling. I know this situation is confusing, and I know you have every right to be concerned about your daughter. There was silence on the other end of the line. Mrs. Thompson, you're really him, the billionaire. I'm really me. Yes, and I'm really married to your daughter. Are you taking advantage of her? No, ma'am. If anything, she's taking advantage of me. Despite everything, Ava snorted with laughter. Young man, her mother continued, I don't care how much money you have. If you hurt my daughter, I will hunt you down and make you very sorry. I would expect nothing less. And Mrs. Thompson, I have no intention of hurting Ava. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me. See that it stays that way. Yes, ma'am. Grayson handed the phone back to Ava, who was staring at him with amazement. You just handled my mother. Your mother is terrifying and wonderful. She likes you. How can you tell? She didn't threaten to castrate you. That's basically her stamp of approval. Back at the townhouse, they settled into Grayson's living room with wine and the stack of wedding gifts that had been arriving all day. Most were from Grayson's business associates, expensive crystal, silver serving pieces, art objects that probably belonged in museums. This is from the Yamamoto family in Tokyo, Grayson said, unwrapping an exquisite sake set. And this is from the board of directors of Whitaker Industries. People you work with sent us wedding gifts. It's traditional, though most of them are probably wondering what the hell I was thinking. What were you thinking? Grayson set down the gift he'd been unwrapping and looked at her. Seriously? I was thinking that I'd found the woman I wanted to spend my life with, and I wasn't going to let her get away again. Again? I told you I've been looking for you for 4 months. Did you really think I was going to let you marry that idiot? So you decided to marry me yourself. Best decision I ever made. Even though it's been nothing but complications, especially because of the complications. Easy things aren't worth having. Ava unwrapped a gift from Madeline, a beautiful leather-bound journal with "For recording the adventure" inscribed on the cover. Your sister has a sense of humor. She likes you. That's not something that happens often. Why not? Madeline doesn't trust easily. She's protective of me, and she's seen too many people try to use me for my money or connections. Is that what you thought I was doing? That's why I married you. They continued opening gifts in comfortable silence until Ava unwrapped something that made her gasp. It was a small painting, an original oil study that looked remarkably like something she'd seen in a museum. Grayson, this looks like a Monet, because it is. A small one. But yes, who sent us a Monet as a wedding gift? Grayson checked the card. The Rothschild family. Old friends of my family. Old friends just casually send priceless artwork? In my world, yes. Ava set the painting down carefully, suddenly overwhelmed by the magnitude of the life she'd entered. Grayson, I need you to understand something. I don't know how to live in a world where people send Monets as wedding gifts. You don't have to know. We'll figure it out together. And what if I can't figure it out? What if I'm always going to feel like I don't belong? Grayson moved closer to her on the sofa. Ava, look at me. She met his eyes reluctantly. Do you belong with me? Yes. Then you belong in my world. Because my world is wherever you are. That's a very romantic thing to say. I'm a very romantic guy. I'm starting to notice that. Grayson leaned closer. Any other concerns I should address? Just one. What? When exactly are you going to kiss me again? Grayson's smile was wicked. Right now. This time when he kissed her, there was no hesitation, no uncertainty. This was the kiss of a man who knew exactly what he wanted, and a woman who was finally ready to let herself want it back. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard, and Ava's heart was racing. "Grayson," she said softly. "Yeah? I think I'm ready for this to be real. It's been real for me since the moment I saw you holding that candlestick. Really real. Not just marriage of convenience. Real. Ava, are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying I want to be your wife. Actually, your wife. In every way that matters." Grayson's smile was brilliant. "Are you sure?" "I'm terrified and excited and completely sure." "Good," he said, standing up and offering her his hand, "because I've been wanting to carry you upstairs since you walked back into my kitchen this morning." "What stopped you?" "I was waiting for you to be ready." Ava took his hand and let him pull her to her feet. "I'm ready now." As Grayson led her upstairs to their bedroom, not his bedroom with her staying in it, Ava felt like she was finally stepping fully into her new life. It was terrifying and exhilarating and perfect. The next morning, Ava woke up in Grayson's arms, feeling more content than she'd ever felt in her life. Sunlight was streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, and she could hear the distant sounds of the city waking up below them. "Good morning, wife," Grayson murmured against her hair. "Good morning, husband. How do you feel?" "Different." "Good, different. No regrets?" "Not one." Grayson kissed the top of her head. "I have a confession." "Oh no. What now?" "I may have already handled the reporter situation." Ava turned in his arms to look at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean I made some calls last night while you were in the shower. The exclusive story about the Whitaker acquisition will break this afternoon, and all those reporters will have much more interesting things to cover than your teaching schedule. Grayson, I know you wanted to handle it yourself, but I couldn't stand the thought of you losing something you love because of me. You went behind my back. I protected something important to you, without asking me, without asking you," he admitted. "Are you angry?" Ava considered this. "I should be angry, but I'm also grateful, and I'm starting to understand what you meant about the difference between being rescued and being supported." "Yeah?" "Yeah. You weren't trying to save me from my problems. You were trying to save something I care about." "Exactly. But next time we discuss it first. Partners, remember? Partners," Grayson agreed. "Always." Ava's phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Rodriguez. "Whatever you did, it worked. No reporters this morning, and the story in the business section has them all chasing after corporate news instead. See you Monday." "Your plan worked," she told Grayson. "Our plan worked. Is this what our marriage is going to be like? You solving problems with strategic media manipulation. Only when necessary. Most of the time it'll just be us figuring out how to be happy together. And what does that life look like? Whatever we want it to look like. You keep teaching, I keep running my companies, and we figure out how to be happy together. It sounds almost too simple. The best things usually are." Ava's phone rang and she was surprised to see it was Madeline. "Your sister's calling," she told Grayson. "At 7 in the morning. This can't be good." Ava answered. "Madeline?" "Ava, thank goodness. I need you and Grayson at the office immediately." "What's wrong?" "Chase has been talking to more reporters. He's claiming you married Grayson for his money and that you're planning to divorce him and take half his fortune. Overfelt sick." "What?" "It gets worse. He's got Brooke backing up his story, and they're painting you as some kind of master manipulator who planned the whole thing. That's ridiculous." "I know it's ridiculous. You know it's ridiculous. But the media is eating it up, and it's starting to affect our stock price." Ava looked at Grayson, who had clearly heard every word. His expression was thunderous. "We'll be there in 30 minutes, she told Madeline. "Ava," Madeline said, "bring everything you have that proves your relationship is real. Photos, texts, anything that shows this isn't some elaborate con. I don't have anything like that. We've only been married for 5 days. Then we'll have to get creative." After ending the call, Ava turned to Grayson. "Your ex-fiancé is trying to destroy our marriage. Chase can try whatever he wants. It won't work. How can you be so calm about this?" "Because I know the truth." "You know the truth. And anyone who spends 5 minutes with us together will know the truth. What if that's not enough?" Grayson took her hands and looked into her eyes. "Ava, do you trust me?" "Yes." "Then trust me when I say that no ex-boyfriend with a grudge is going to destroy what we're building. Chase had his chance with you, and he blew it. Now it's my turn, and I'm not going to waste it. And what are we going to do? We're going to go to my office, deal with this crisis like the partners we are, and then we're going to come home and continue building our life together. And if the media doesn't believe us, then we'll prove them wrong. Every day, for as long as it takes." Ava smiled despite her anxiety. "You make it sound easy." "It is easy. The hard part was finding you. Everything else is just details." As they got dressed and prepared to face whatever Chase and the media had thrown at them, Ava realized that for the first time in her life, She didn't feel like she was facing a crisis alone. She had a partner now, someone who would stand with her against whatever came their way. It was a new feeling, and she liked it more than she'd expected. Sterling Enterprises headquarters occupied 47 floors of gleaming steel and glass in the heart of Manhattan's financial district. As Ava and Grayson's car pulled up to the building, she could see reporters and camera crews already stationed outside, their equipment creating a small city of media on the sidewalk. "This is insane," Ava murmured, watching a reporter check her makeup in a compact mirror, while her cameraman adjusted his equipment. "This is Tuesday," Grayson said grimly. "In my world, this level of media attention comes with the territory. Your world is exhausting." "Our world," he corrected gently. "And yes, it can be." The car pulled into an underground garage, allowing them to avoid the media circus above. As they rode the private elevator to the 47th floor, Ava tried to calm her racing heart. She'd never been inside a corporate headquarters before, let alone one owned by her husband. The elevator doors opened to reveal a reception area that looked like something from a luxury hotel, floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of the city, modern art adorning the walls, everything designed in clean lines of steel, glass, and warm wood. "Mr. Sterling," the receptionist said, standing immediately, "Miss Madeline is waiting for you in the Crisis Management Conference Room." "Crisis Management Conference Room?" Ava asked, as they walked down a hallway lined with awards and framed magazine covers featuring Grayson. "Every major corporation has one. It's where we handle situations that could affect stock prices, public perception, or legal liability. And I'm now a situation that could affect all three. Chase made you a situation. We're going to unmake you one." Madeline was waiting for them in a conference room that looked like something from a political thriller. Multiple screens covered one wall, showing various news channels and social media feeds. A team of people in expensive suits were typing furiously on laptops, and phones were ringing constantly. "Finally," Madeline said, looking up from a tablet, "we have a problem." "How bad?" Grayson asked, settling into a chair and pulling Ava down beside him. "Bad. Chase's story is gaining traction. He's given interviews to 3 major news outlets claiming that Ava researched your wealth, deliberately staged the coffee shop meeting, and planned the entire wedding disruption to trap you into marriage." Ava felt the blood drain from her face. "That's completely false." "Of course it's false," Madeline said, "but it's believable enough to create doubt, and Brooke is backing up his story, claiming that Ava confided the whole plan to her months ago." "Brooke's lying," Ava said, her voice shaking with anger. "She's lying because she's embarrassed about being caught with my fiancé, and she wants to shift blame onto me." "We know that," Madeline said gently, "but the media doesn't care about truth right now. They care about a story that will sell advertising." Grayson was staring at one of the screens where a morning show was displaying photos of him and Ava alongside the headline, "Billionaire's Bride. Love or con? Show me everything," he said quietly. For the next hour, Ava watched in horror as Madeline's team walked them through the media storm Chase had created. He'd provided reporters with supposed evidence of Ava's planned screenshots of text messages taken out of context, photos from her social media that allegedly showed her researching wealthy men, and testimonials from supposed friends who claimed she'd always been obsessed with money and status. "None of this is real," Ava said, her voice getting higher with each new revelation. "These text messages are from when I was helping plan my cousin's wedding to her wealthy boyfriend. These photos are from art museum visits that I saved up for months to afford. And I don't even know half these people claiming to be my friends." "We know," Madeline said, "but fabricated evidence can be very convincing, especially when it supports a narrative people want to believe." "What narrative?" "Poor girl cons billionaire," Grayson said, his voice tight with anger. "It's a story as old as time, and people eat it up because it confirms their suspicions about both wealth and ambition, but it's not true." "Truth is irrelevant," Madeline said bluntly. "Perception is everything, and right now the perception is that you're a gold digger who played a long con." Ava felt tears of frustration welling up. "So what do? "We fight back," Grayson said firmly. "Madeline, what are our options? We could issue a statement denying everything, but that just gives the story more oxygen. We could provide evidence of the real timeline of your relationship, but that would require admitting you hired investigators to find her, which makes you look like a stalker. Or, Madeline hesitated, we could give them a bigger story, something so compelling that it overshadows Chase's allegations entirely." "What kind of bigger story?" "The truth. The whole truth, told in a way that's so romantic and believable that it makes Chase look like a bitter ex making things up." Grayson and Ava looked at each other. "What would that involve?" Ava asked. A full media blitz. Interviews, photo shoots, public appearances. We tell the real story of how you met, how Grayson searched for you, how he happened to be at your wedding. We make it the romance story of the century. That sounds like a nightmare, Ava said. It would be intensive, Madeline agreed, but it would work. The media loves a good love story more than they love a scandal, especially when the love story is true and the scandal is fabricated. Grayson was quiet for a long moment, studying Ava's face. What do you think? I think I never wanted to be famous. And I think this feels like we're feeding into exactly the kind of media circus I hate. But I also think I'm not going to let Chase destroy us with lies, just because I'm uncomfortable with publicity. Are you sure? Ava took a deep breath. Grayson, I love you. I love our marriage and I love the life we're building together. If telling our story publicly is what it takes to protect that, then that's what we do. The room went completely silent. It was the first time either of them had said the word love out loud, and the weight of it hung in the air between them. You love me? Grayson asked, his voice soft with wonder. I love you, Ava confirmed, feeling terrified and exhilarated at the same time. I love your kindness and your intelligence, and the way you make me feel like I can be anyone I want to be. I love that you saved me from the worst day of my life, and somehow turned it into the beginning of the best thing that's ever happened to me. Grayson's smile was radiant. I love you too. I've been falling for you since the moment you spilled coffee on my suit, and I've been completely gone for you since you threatened Chase with that vase. This is very sweet, Madeline interrupted, but we have a crisis to manage. Are we doing the media blitz or not? We're doing it, Grayson and Ava said simultaneously. Excellent. I'll call our PR team and set up interviews with friendly journalists. We'll start with a major magazine cover story, then move to television interviews. By the end of the week, Chase's story will be old news. What about my job? Ava asked. I can't take time off for interviews and photo shoots. Actually, Madeline said, Dr. Rodriguez called this morning. The school board has decided to place you on administrative leave until this media situation resolves itself. Ava felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. They fired me? They placed you on leave. Madeline clarified. It's temporary and it's paid. But yes, they don't want media attention disrupting the school. So Chase gets what he wanted, Ava said bitterly. He succeeded in destroying my career. Only if we let him, Grayson said firmly. Ava, what if I told you we could use this situation to create something even better? What do you mean? I mean, what if instead of just defending ourselves, we went on the offensive? What if we used this media attention to launch something meaningful? I'm not following. Grayson turned to Madeline. What's the status on the Education Foundation? The Sterling Foundation for Educational Excellence. It's been approved by the board, and we have $50 million in initial funding. We've been looking for the right person to run it. Grayson turned back to Ava. What if that person was you? Me? Think about it. You're a teacher who understands what schools really need. You have first-hand experience with underfunded classrooms and overworked educators. You could create programs that actually make a difference. Grayson, I don't know anything about running a foundation. You know about education. Everything else can be learned. Ava stared at him. You're offering me a job running a $50 million foundation. I'm offering you a chance to change the world for kids like Lily. To be the kind of support system for other teachers that you never had. And coincidentally, it makes me look less like a gold digger and more like a serious professional. That's a bonus, not the motivation. Ava looked around the conference room at Madeline and her team of crisis managers. At the screens showing her face on news channels across the country. A week ago, she'd been an anonymous elementary school teacher planning a simple wedding. Now she was the center of a media storm, married to a billionaire, and being offered the chance to run a major foundation. This is insane, she said. Completely insane, Grayson agreed. But it's also an opportunity to turn something destructive into something meaningful. What if I'm not good at it? What if you're incredible at it? Ava thought about Lily and her other students, about all the teachers she knew who were struggling with inadequate resources and impossible expectations. She thought about the difference $50 million could make in the right hands. Okay, she said. Let's do it. All of it. The interviews, the foundation, the whole thing. Are you sure? I'm terrified and excited and completely sure. Let's show Chase and everyone else exactly who Ava Sterling really is. The next week was a whirlwind of activity that left Ava feeling like she was living someone else's life. Madeline had arranged interviews with 3 major magazines, 2 television shows, and 1 high-profile podcast. Professional stylists appeared at the townhouse to help Ava choose outfits that would photograph well. Media trainers coached her on how to speak naturally while being recorded. And through it all, Grayson was by her side, holding her hand through every interview and photo shoot. The first major piece was a cover story for Vanity Fair titled The Real Ava Sterling, From Teacher to Philanthropist. The photographer Annie Leibovitz herself spent an entire day capturing intimate moments between Grayson and Ava in their home at Lincoln Elementary School and walking through Central Park. "Tell me about the moment you knew she was the one," the journalist Amanda Richardson asked Grayson during their interview. "The coffee shop incident," Grayson said immediately. "She was so flustered and apologetic, spending 10 minutes trying to clean my suit with napkins while apologizing profusely. Most people in her situation would have been defensive or dismissive, but Ava was genuinely distressed that she'd inconvenienced me. And then when I tried to ask for her number, she was already gone. I spent the next 4 months trying to find her. You hired private investigators. I hired the best investigators money could buy. I couldn't stop thinking about her. That's either very romantic or very stalking adjacent," Amanda said with a laugh. "It felt romantic to me," Ava interjected. "When he told me he'd been looking for me, it was like something out of a fairy tale." "And the wedding day, Grayson. What were you doing at Ava's wedding?" "Pure chance," Grayson said. "I was meeting with a potential business partner at the venue's restaurant when I heard the commotion. I went to investigate and found Ava holding a vase like a weapon, looking absolutely magnificent in her fury." "You proposed marriage to a stranger." "I proposed marriage to the woman I'd been searching for 4 months. The fact that she was having the worst day of her life and needed a way out just gave me the perfect opportunity." "Ava, what was going through your mind when this stranger offered to marry you?" "Honestly, I thought he was insane, but I was also thinking that my life had just exploded. And sometimes when everything falls apart, the only thing to do is jump into something completely new. Do you regret it?" Ava looked at Grayson, who was holding her hand and smiling at her with obvious adoration. "Not for a single second," she said. "Marrying Grayson was the best decision I ever made." The interview continued for hours, covering everything from their honeymoon in Martha's Vineyard to their plans for the Education Foundation. By the time it was over, Ava felt like she'd been turned inside out and examined under a microscope. "How do you think we did?" she asked Grayson as they drove home. "I think we told our story honestly, and that's all we can do. What if people don't believe us? Then, they don't believe us." "But Ava, anyone who reads that interview is going to see two people who are genuinely in love. The chemistry between us is impossible to fake. Is it obvious? The way you look at me, the way I look at you. Yeah, it's pretty obvious." The television interviews were more challenging. The hosts were professional but persistent, asking pointed questions about the timeline of their relationship and the allegations Chase had made. "Let's address the elephant in the room," said Sarah Morgan, host of Good Morning America. "Chase Harlan, your ex-fiancé, has made some serious allegations about your motivations for marrying Grayson. He claims you researched his wealth and planned this entire scenario. What's your response to that?" Ava had practiced this answer with the media trainers, but it still felt surreal to be discussing her personal life on national television. "Sarah, Chase is a man who was caught cheating on his wedding day and is now trying to salvage his reputation by destroying mine. The idea that I somehow orchestrated meeting Grayson 4 months ago, then planned for Chase to cheat so I could have a reason to marry a stranger instead, is not just false, it's ridiculous. But you did know about Grayson's wealth when you married him. I suspected he had money, yes. The way he carried himself, the way hotel staff treated him, it was obvious he wasn't just an ordinary business consultant. But I married him because he saved me from the worst day of my life, and because I felt a connection to him that I'd never felt with anyone else." "Grayson, what do you say to critics who suggest this marriage happened too quickly to be genuine?" "I say that when you know, Grayson replied. "I'd been looking for Ava for 4 months before our wedding day. I knew she was special from the moment I met her. The timing was unexpected, but the feelings were real, and now you're starting a foundation together." "Ava is starting a foundation," Grayson corrected. "I'm providing funding and support, but she's the one with the vision and expertise to make it work." "Ava, tell us about your plans for the Sterling Foundation for Educational Excellence." This was the part Ava was most excited about. "We're going to focus on 3 main areas: providing resources directly to underfunded schools, supporting teacher professional development, and creating innovative programs that help students who are struggling academically or dealing with difficult home situations." This is quite a career change from elementary school teacher. It's an expansion, not a change. I'm still going to be working with teachers and students just on a larger scale. And everything I learned in my classroom is going to inform how we approach this work By the time all the interviews aired, public opinion had shifted dramatically. The morning shows were running segments about America's most romantic love story, and social media was flooded with supporters using hashtags like Team Ava and Real Love. Chase's allegations were being dismissed as the bitter rantings of a jilted ex, especially after several of his supposed sources were revealed to be fake accounts created specifically to support his story. "It's working," Madeline announced during their daily crisis meeting. "Chase's story is falling apart, and your story is resonating with people. The foundation announcement has generated enormous positive coverage, and there are already wealthy donors calling to offer additional funding. So we're in the clear?" Ava asked. "You're in the clear," Madeline confirmed. "In fact, you're becoming something of a media darling. 3 publishers have reached out about book deals, and there's talk of a documentary. A documentary about what? About your love story, about the foundation, about the modern American dream." Ava looked around the conference room that had become so familiar over the past week. "A week ago I was nobody. Now people want to make documentaries about me. A week ago you were a teacher who was about to marry the wrong man," Grayson said. "Now you're a philanthropist who's married to the right one. That's a story worth telling." 3 weeks later, Ava stood in the ballroom of the Plaza Hotel, surrounded by hundreds of people who had come to the launch party for the Sterling Foundation for Educational Excellence. She was wearing a stunning emerald green gown that Grayson had chosen because it matched her eyes, and she felt like she was living in someone else's life. Mrs. Sterling, a woman in an expensive suit, approached her. "I'm Margaret Thornton from the Thornton Family Foundation. We'd love to discuss a partnership opportunity." "Mrs. Sterling," said another guest, "I represent the Gates Foundation. We're very interested in your innovative approach to educational support." Ava smiled and made polite conversation, but she kept scanning the room for Grayson. She found him near the bar, deep in conversation with a group of serious-looking men in tuxedos. "Excuse me," she said to Margaret Thornton. "I need to check on something." She made her way across the ballroom, stopping to greet guests and accept congratulations on the foundation launch. When she finally reached Grayson, he immediately wrapped an arm around her waist and pulled her into the conversation. "Gentlemen, I'd like you to meet my wife, Ava Sterling, the founder and director of our Education Foundation." "Mrs. Sterling," said one of the men, "we were just discussing your plans for teacher training programs. Very impressive work." "Thank you. I'm excited to get started." After the men moved on, Grayson leaned down to whisper in her ear. "How are you holding up? I feel like I'm in a dream. A really good dream, but still a dream. Want to know a secret? Always. I feel the same way. 6 weeks ago, I was a workaholic bachelor with no idea what I was missing. Now I'm married to the most incredible woman I've ever met, and she's about to change the world. I haven't changed anything yet. You changed me. That's a pretty good start." Before Ava could respond, Madeline appeared at their side with a tablet in her hand. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, "but there's something you both need to see." She showed them the screen, which displayed a news article with the headline, "Chase Harlan, arrested for fraud." "What?" Ava exclaimed. "Apparently, while he was busy trying to destroy your reputation, investigators discovered that he'd been embezzling money from his accounting clients. He's been arrested and charged with multiple felonies." Ava stared at the article, feeling a mixture of vindication and sadness. "He destroyed his own life. He destroyed his life the moment he decided to cheat on you," Grayson said firmly. "Everything that happened after that was just consequences." Mrs. Sterling, a young woman, approached them nervously. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm a teacher from Brooklyn, and I just wanted to thank you for what you're doing. My school is one of the ones that's going to receive funding from your foundation, and it's going to make such a difference for our kids." Ava felt tears well up in her eyes. "What's your name?" "Maria Santos. I teach 3rd grade. Maria, would you like to be one of our first teacher advisors? We're going to need educators to help us understand what schools really need." "Are you serious?" "Completely serious. We can't do this work without input from teachers who are actually in the trenches." As Maria walked away with Madeline's business card and a huge smile, Grayson squeezed Ava's hand. "See, you're already changing the world." "We're changing the world," Ava corrected. "This is a partnership. Remember? The best partnership I've ever had." The party continued late into the night, with guests mingling and discussing education policy and sharing stories about teachers who had made a difference in their lives. As Ava moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations and discussing foundation plans, she felt a deep sense of purpose and belonging. This was her life now. This was who she was becoming. Around midnight, she and Grayson finally escaped to a quiet corner of the ballroom, both of them exhausted but exhilarated. "So, Grayson said, pulling her into his arms. How does it feel to be a philanthropist? Terrifying and exciting and overwhelming. Good overwhelmed or bad overwhelmed? Definitely good overwhelmed. Any regrets? Ava thought about Chase's arrest, about the media storm they'd weathered, about the teaching job she'd lost, and the foundation she'd gained. She thought about the scared woman who had discovered her fiancé cheating just 6 weeks ago, and how different her life was now. Not one, she said. You? Just one. What? I regret that it took me 4 months to find you after the coffee shop. Think of all the time we wasted. We weren't ready for each other 4 months ago. I was engaged to someone else, and I was just a workaholic billionaire with commitment issues. And now I'm a philanthropist, married to a reformed workaholic billionaire with excellent taste in wives. Grayson laughed. I do have excellent taste in wives. Just the one wife. I hope. Just the one wife, he confirmed, leaning down to kiss her. Forever. As they kissed in the corner of the ballroom, surrounded by the sounds of their launch party and the city beyond, Ava realized that this was what happiness felt like, not the simple contentment she'd thought she wanted with Chase, but the complex, challenging, exhilarating happiness that came from building something meaningful with someone you loved. Grayson, she said against his lips. Thank you. For what? For seeing me. For finding me. For saving me from a life that would have been perfectly fine but never extraordinary. Thank you for letting me find you. For taking a chance on a crazy stranger with a fake marriage proposal. Best fake marriage ever. Best real marriage ever. And as they stood there in each other's arms, surrounded by the life they were building together, both of them knew that this was just the beginning. They had a foundation to run, a world to change, and a love story to continue writing together. 6 weeks ago, Ava Thompson had been a teacher about to marry the wrong man. Tonight, Ava Sterling was a philanthropist married to her soulmate, ready to take on whatever challenges and adventures lay ahead. It had been, without question, the most extraordinary transformation of her life. And the best part, they were just getting started. Epilogue. 1 year later, the Sterling Foundation for Educational Excellence had funded programs in over 200 schools across the country. Ava's book, From Classroom to Boardroom, A Teacher's Guide to Educational Philanthropy, had topped the New York Times best seller list for 6 weeks, and their first wedding anniversary was being celebrated with a quiet dinner at the same Italian restaurant where they'd had their first real conversation as a married couple. To us, Grayson said, raising his wine glass. To us, Ava agreed, clinking her glass against his. Any regrets after a full year of marriage? Just one. What? I regret that we didn't take more photos at our actual wedding. All the pictures are of other people's reactions to our surprise marriage. We can fix that. How? Grayson smiled and pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Grayson, what are you doing? Ava Sterling, will you marry me again? This time with planning and preparation and all our friends and family there to celebrate with us. Inside the box was a stunning diamond ring that caught the light and threw rainbows across the table. You want to have another wedding? I want to have the wedding you deserved the first time. I want to walk down an aisle toward you, while you wear a dress you actually chose. I want our families to give speeches, and our friends to dance badly, and photographers to capture every moment. We're already married. We're already married, he agreed. But I want to marry you again properly this time. What do you say? Ava looked at the ring, then at Grayson's hopeful face, then around the little restaurant that had become special to them. I say yes, she said, laughing as he slipped the ring onto her finger. I say yes to marrying you again, and yes to whatever adventures come next, and yes to spending the rest of my life with the man who turned the worst day of my life into the beginning of the best story I've ever lived. I love you, Ava Sterling. I love you too, Grayson Sterling. Now and always. And as they kissed across the small table in the Italian restaurant, where they'd first admitted they were falling for each other, both of them knew that their love story was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. The end.